Hello and welcome to Raheen's page. This is me, Raheen Fatima, and today we have Kingsley. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Raheen. I'm very well, thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. So, for the audience, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, my full name is Kingsley Dennis. At the moment, I'm currently living in southern Spain in Andalusia, although I'm UK born. And for the majority of my working life, I've been in education, in teaching and the university, in the subjects of literature and sociology. I've also lived and worked in many countries abroad. I spent 5 years working in Istanbul, Turkey. I worked in Prague, Czech Republic, in education. Then I went back to the United Kingdom to work in sociology at university. And 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to work freelance and to, kind of create my own path and to be free to do that. So I left university, I moved here to Spain, and I've been writing books ever since. That's kind of me in a nutshell.
Okay, so I believe that everybody's childhood really plays an important role in the adult life and the success of a person. And so, how was your childhood?
Well, I'm happy to say that my childhood was pleasant. I had a good childhood. What characterized my years of growing up is that I was always curious. Um, Always asking questions, even if, especially my parents, bless them, couldn't always answer the questions, but they always encouraged questions. And I was a bit of a dreamer, uh, but I think dreaming is a positive attribute. Not, I don't like it when people say you're a daydreamer and they think it's something negative. I think dreaming and daydreaming and visualizing and wishing something is a positive characteristic. So I was always in my head daydreaming, and curious and being adventurous. So when I was, let's say, when I went on holiday with my family, I was always I was always running off and exploring and wanting to find new things. So that carried with me all through my childhood years, never accepting something purely because it was told to me. I wanted to go and find out for myself. And so I was always a curious little chap.
Okay, that's great. And so you have any childhood memories if when you think about your childhood?
Well, in fact, I started off writing short stories when I was very young. I think maybe mm, 10, 11 years old, I started writing short stories. I always wanted to be a writer of fiction. It was always somewhere, again, it's a way to explore the world. And so I only had few friends. I was never a person who liked to mingle with a lot of people. I preferred fewer and closer friends. And so I spent a lot of time with, I say, a few people, but I was writing, and I think I was a late comer to reading. I think I was writing before I actually was a reader. I started reading a lot when I was about 14, uh, and I thought I was coming to it very old. And so after 14, woof, I shot off and started reading as much as I could. But before 14, I didn't read much. But actually, the first things I started writing was poetry. I wrote a lot of poetry in my years as a young man, and that was before I started writing fiction or other stuff. It was a way for me to understand the world. It was a way to kind of have a conversation with myself. So I didn't share it with many people. I think that's a shame that some people think poetry is embarrassing. I think poetry is wonderful. So I would encourage anyone just to write down anything you wish to.
Yes, I think poetry is very encouraging. Although, like my father is very much into poetry, but he's still trying to get me into poetry. but I am not into Urdu poetry. That's my national language. But I'm more into English poetry. Sometimes and
Hmm.
sometimes I like it. So when did you after reading, when did you start professionally writing books and publishing them? And then because you also introduce yourself as a researcher and a futurist, so how did just set off for the search of your present life?
Well, Raheen, it it's been a very long journey, and maybe this is a good analogy for anyone listening today. That one of the greatest assets, I think, is persistence. Because I've spent all my life trying to be a writer and only just arrived there. After I left university, I was 21 years old, and I was determined to be a writer. So instead of following let's say, a career path, I I went and I moved out and lived on my own, and I started writing books. And I wrote about four novels, maybe five, and I tried to get them published, and no success. I think I'm grateful for, because I needed to improve my writing. But it was a dream, but I didn't have the success at the time. So then I wanted to travel around the world, so I decided that I would be trained as a teacher as a way to travel and work. So I went to a teacher training college. I went teaching around the world. Like I say, I taught in Czech Republic and Turkey. After many years, I came back to university, and only when I was about 35 did I have the opportunity to write a book. And it was an academic book called After the Car. How would I envisage life in a post-peak oil future? That's where the futurism started. And then after that, all my books were research books. And I was interested in consciousness for many years. So all my first six books were about nonfiction, consciousness, the world, systems, the future. But in my heart, I always wanted to be a writer of fiction. That's what I was doing since I was a little boy. But I couldn't get there. And so after many years, I started then to work back on the fiction after writing the research books. And it was only, I think, when I turned 40, I'm sounding old now. Only when I turned 40, I managed to write my first fiction book. And, and since then, I've written one or two books for children, etc. Um, but you see, even though I knew I was a writer from age of 10, it took me to the age of 40 to publish a work of fiction. And I think you have to be persistent and never give up. And I truly believe that you will arrive at where you wish to arrive, no matter how many years it takes you to get there.
Yes, and I believe that writing fiction is another like an experience, because you get to play with a lot of different creatures or stories, or even go to Mars if you like. So it's just something about fiction. So how do you think of social systems, the culture, and the future?
Well, that's a big question. um, now, when I was when I was living abroad in other countries, it gave me the opportunity to see different systems and the different cultures, and I'm very curious about different cultures. Um, and so I've lived in Christian, Catholic, Muslim cultures, and I think that's all been a blessing to gain experience. Um, but although I've seen different systems, the one central element that binds, that gels all these systems together is, for me, uh, human consciousness. Because although the systems may be diverse and the cultures are diverse, we all belong to a family of human consciousness. And it's this which, for me, is fascinating, because how we think within ourselves influences how we perceive and how we create the world outside of us. And so my understanding is that the social systems are a result, a consequence of our thinking patterns. If we want to change the systems, we first have to change how we perceive and how we think, and also to find correspondences and alignments between how we think and how other people in other cultures think. Because if we are faulty in our thinking, the systems that we try to create will be faulty. And humanity is a bit of a you know egoistic species in many ways. Is that it always wants to try to mend something, to repair something, you know. And nature isn't wrong. Why should we repair it? First, we need to repair our thinking patterns, and then we can connect in a more harmonious alignment with the world around us. So I've come to the understanding that social systems need to be considered from a point of how they are a part of human thinking and consciousness. They're not separate. Nothing is separate in the world, in the cosmos, in reality. Everything is interconnected, both physically and materially, and intangibly, energetically, and we are always impacting each other in so many ways. So I think that the humanity as a whole has to go through its own journey of trying to understanding itself, trying to evolve, mature, and we're doing that now largely through communication. The more we communicate, the more we understand each other, like we're having this conversation now. And I think it's wonderful that we can communicate with all people of all ages in all places across the world, because then if we can learn through experience and develop ourselves, we have a better chance of influencing a better future society. And more or less, that's my thinking.
Yes, and so the technology is developing its own future now. So it's kind of somehow predictable because it's been flourishing through the recent years. And so, what do you think of us humans? What's the humans' future and the technology futures, and all of it combined? How would the future all be?
Again, a huge question. Maybe a question for each episode. Um, I think I think the question of technology is fundamental and one of our biggest questions that we're facing today as a species, and it will more or less dictate our future. Now, technology is a two-edged sword, okay? Or it's like anything, it's a tool, and it can be used in different ways. Same thing, let's say, a knife can be used to spread butter on bread, or it can be used to cause injury to someone. It's how you use it. And we can't blame the tool, but we have to blame the usage of the tool. Now, technology has a wonderful potential. And again, my sense is that technology is projecting what's already inside of us. It's a hardware projecting the software inside of humanity, such as humans are social communicative creatures. Technology is allowing that communication externally, and we were always connected energetically. People close to each other or their families have a sense if something's happening with their family member because we're energetically connected. Technology is the same energetic connection, but through a different energy, fiber optics and etc. So it's a projection from ourselves, and so we're a part of it. But the problem is now technology is accelerating so fast, it's perhaps accelerating faster than our capacity to understand it and our capacity of thinking. So if we don't have the correct level of consciousness, technology can be going faster and our consciousness is not on the same level. So whereas technology could be a wonderful tool of communication, it may become a tool of control, surveillance, because our consciousness hasn't reached a level where we can put its usage in balance. Now, I personally, of course, would want to see a future whereby the world is unified through technology, but maintains our diversity, maintains our freedom and our human rights, and allows us to amplify the better aspects of humanity. Because, at the bottom of it, majority, 99% of humans are good natured people. We want the best. We care for each other. We're compassionate. there's a minority maybe who are spoiling it for the rest of us. And if that minority gets the control of technology, it's a shame. So we need to become the users of technology from a better place. If we're the users, we should define how we use it. So we drive technology. We don't let someone at the top tell us this is how you should use technology. We should use it. We are the content users. So I think that technology should be participatory. The more we participate, the more we drive it forward from the bottom up, rather than let some few hands from the top drive it. So I think that we have a potential, a very positive future, that but we have to participate in the future of technology, not let it run ahead in front of us and dictate to us. I hope that answers
Yes,
your question.
yeah, and that does answer my question. And when you were answering, I was thinking that yes, technology is running very fast. I guess way too fast for us to catch up. Because I am having trouble catching up. And then I imagine how much trouble my dad or even my granddad is having. I mean, he has a smartphone, but he has trouble using it. I mean, he's a 70-year-old man. But we
Mm-hmm.
need to see that, we need to participate as much as possible so we humans could actually, just pace up with the technology, and just us humans and the technology's evolution together. So we both are, in the evolution state, and we both are developing. So I guess it's really, really important. And so tell us a little about the healing of the wounded mind.
Okay. Um, if you don't mind, I'd like to just step back just for 1 minute to comment upon what you said, because I think that's very important in that the generational difference. Now, I have the same issue with my parents. The technology is baffling to them. But the benefit is, I think it's going to be the younger generations who are going to steer this technology forward. Because even now, I mean, I'm getting confused by all the applications, and I've told you this is the first time I've used StreamYard. But the younger generations, each time they're coming into a world which is more digitized, more with more technology. So it's more natural to them. They are growing up with it around them. So I think that the future of technology, the question you asked before, is going to be in the hands of the younger generation. But they're more, let's say, tech savvy, or they're more adaptable to technology. So it's actually in their hands. The benefit and the advantages is in their hands, and that gives me hope, because I think that the younger generations are much more, uh, let's say, expansive, globally thinking, because they've grown up in this technology. Um, so yes, it's in your hands. Now, the question about the wounded mind, it's a slightly different angle I've taken on that. Is that with that book, I was thinking about the collective consciousness. For example, the theories of the psychologist Carl Jung. That my understanding is that, now I hope I don't get too um, strange here, but my understanding is that consciousness is not really produced from the brain, but we actually pick it up, we access it. Okay, just like a television doesn't produce a program, it receives a program. And we are interacting with all different fields of consciousness. So if we are receiving consciousness, let's say from a collective human field, then we can receive ideas, thoughts, or energies, feelings, emotions that maybe are not ours. So if there's, let's say, collective anxiety in the world, such as what's happening at the present time, collective fear, we may be picking this up, and we then bring it into ourselves. But we need to heal that, because whatever we're thinking, we put out to the world. Whatever we think, we put out to our friends, our family. Emotions, ideas, consciousness don't just stay in the head. It goes out everywhere. So if we have to realize that how we feel, how we think impacts other people, and what other people and the world is thinking impacts us. Everything is kind of, porous. And so healing the wounded mind is about trying to understand that we need to be in a state of balance. We need to find our own harmony in the way we think, because we don't want to start negatively influencing other things around us. So it's about trying to find our balance in an interconnected world, um, more or less. So again, you can see that one of my favorite subjects is consciousness and collective consciousness.
Yes, and I think consciousness, because I know that consciousness has different levels, but I think it's really, really important to be conscious at sometimes, and to know that you are conscious. So I guess it's really important. And when I see you talking about consciousness, I'm just reminded of the show that I usually go to. That's Mind Floor, and it's basically Mind Floor with Carla and friends. And I would love if you would be part of that show, because we basically we usually all the time talk about consciousness, because we think that it's really important for us to talk about it, and then for others to first understand how consciousness basically works. But so this is a selected group, and I would love for you to be part of it, and we could talk about it later.
Hmm.
But at the end, I would like to ask you two things. First, if somebody wants to contact you, where are you most reachable?
Well, thank you for that, and I think your group sounds fascinating. I'd love to maybe participate if I can. Now, if people want to reach me, maybe the easiest is to visit my website. It's kingsleydennis.com, just my name. If you Google Kingsley Dennis, you'll probably find it, because I have the benefit of not being many other Kingsley Dennises in the world. Um, so if you Google Kingsley Dennis, my website. Now, if you on the menu button, there's a menu saying writings. If you go to the writings, there's another click saying essays. I have about 50 essays there on all different subjects, including consciousness, world systems, um, technology, everything. And all those are downloadable for free, and you can read them. And also, there's a contact form on my website, so you're welcome to send me a question, which I receive by email. So please go there and browse around to your wish.
Thank you so much for coming, Kingsley. You told us so many things, and you answered a lot of my questions. And it was just very fun talking to you, and it was a very interactive kind of interview. So at the end, I would request if you could give out a message to our audience.
Sure. Well, thank you, Raheen, for this invitation. It's been the time has gone so quickly, and I'm sure we have so many other subjects we could have talked about. But I appreciate that you gave me this space to your viewers. Now, the question, what I would say to your viewers is a kind of two-part one. One is that you've seen from my life story that it's taken me most, 40 years to get to publishing, which means that you can reach your goal if you put your heart into that through persistence and belief, self-belief, because no one can ever take that away from you. And so my message would be that we are and we become and we put out in the world what we are within us. We project everything out. So we can be anything we wish to be. We have all the tools, all the resources inside of us. So we don't have to go out looking for what we need. We should be going in to find what we need. We have everything. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So with the inner resources you have, you can reach your goal, whatever that may be, and always believe in yourself, because without that, if you don't believe in yourself, who else will? So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much for the beautiful message, and I hope the audience learned a lot from today's interview. Thank you so much to the audience for watching, for giving out a lot of comments, and thank you so much. And we will come back with another personality. So thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you, Raheen. It's been a pleasure.